Hey folks, so yeah, that is me when I had a full thick head of hair, but now it's started to thin from the stress of working in Wolfgang and by extension all of you. But I think this hair works anyway. So I'm not going to keep you up here talking about my hair, I'm going to talk about creative. But to kick it off, I'm going to talk about what's happening in digital in 2024. So you might have already kind of seen some of this before, but like essentially attention spans are getting shorter day by day. Marketplaces are becoming more and more competitive, and machine learning and AI is becoming a lot more prominent. And let's see what Meta had to say about creative as well. So they actually revealed that 56% of a campaign's sale return on investment comes from the creative itself. So it has to be kind of like really strong quality creative, and that's essentially what's resulting in getting that strong return. And this has grown even more difficult because targeting's become a lot trickier as well lately, which I'll go into detail a bit later. Not only does it help with your ROI, we also see the quality creative improves your CTRs. We notice that they go up whenever your creative improves, and we know that the CPMs go down, which is a result of essentially winning a lot more ad auctions. So with all that in mind, I want to dive a little bit deeper and first talk about the dwindling attention spans. So you would have seen this a lot before. I think it featured in Wolfgang Essentials last year, but it's essentially how attention span has decreased from 12 seconds down to 8.2 seconds in 2015, so that's a pretty steep drop. And people love to compare this to the attention span of a goldfish. Essentially what we're saying is humans now have a lower attention span than a goldfish. So that's a bit of a scary sight. The thing is, there seems to be a lot of debate on this particular stat recently, so I wanted to introduce you to somebody else. So does anyone know who this is? Well, I don't either, but a Google search last week revealed that she is a professor in the University of California. Her name is Gloria Mark. But what's more important is she wrote a book on attention spans, and she conducted a study in the early 2000s on how often people shifted focus from one thing to another when they're using their electronic devices. So initially in the early 2000s, they discovered it was 2.5 minutes. That's how long people were focusing on a specific topic. And then when they reconducted the study in recent years, it's gone down to 47 seconds, which is a drop of 69%. So again, it's really scary that we are just losing attention like more and more as the years go by. I'm terrified to see what's going to happen in like 2030. But because these attention spans are going down so quickly, that is a challenge for us. So we need to make sure that we're finding a way to grab the user's attention, drive engagement, and get that click. And that brings me to machine learning and AI. So you've probably heard us talk a lot before as well about how like the ad platforms are getting more and more competitive all the time. CPCs go up, cost per acquisitions are going up. And this is essentially a result of new advertisers entering the digital landscape. That would have happened a lot, particularly during COVID, but it's still happening. And existing advertisers are ramping up spend in order to compete as well. So all of this is making advertising more expensive. But Meta had an answer to this increased competition. Does anyone know what that is? Somebody has to know. It's Advantage Plus. So Advantage Plus was a kind of a series of new updates that came and features that you could use. So there's like Advantage Plus targeting, Advantage Plus placements, and then the Advantage Plus objective, which is, in my opinion, probably the strongest one of these features. So where you previously would have been able to control a lot of performance from like using like optimizing your targeting or your placements or your bidding, now AI kind of controls the bulk of these levers, which makes it more difficult for us to kind of optimize for performance because it's essentially taken away a bit of control. But one thing we can still control is your creative. So this is kind of leading up to my point about how creative will be a big part of your performance driver and how it will essentially become your targeting in 2024, because it is the one thing that we can still control. Yeah, so the good news is that we've already tested Advantage Plus shopping campaigns and a lot of these Advantage Plus features in the last, let's say, I think it was H2 in 2023. And when we compared that to H2 2022, with an increase of 26% spend and with making sure that our creative was really strong creative, also using Advantage Plus shopping campaigns on the features, we saw revenue go up 42% and ROAS go up 13%. So there's no question you should definitely be using AI as part of your strategy. Like, you'll get left behind if you're not, essentially. But then I suppose that begs the question, if everyone's using AI, what's going to make you so special? What's going to make you stand out? And again, the answer to that is creative. So this is the one thing that will set you apart from all the other advertisers on the platform. And yeah, if you like, the more essentially the more creative that you provide your Advantage Plus shopping campaigns or any of these AI-powered campaigns, the better it tends to perform. And it's a really handy way for you to kind of test different styles of creative, see what's resonating for your brand and with your audience. So now I'm going to bring you through your creative strategy for 2024. But to start off, I know you've heard me talk a lot about AI. You've heard everyone here today talk about AI. It's a very booming topic at the moment. But I do hope you're not planning on just going home and using AI to create all your ads and have us out of the business. Because what happens is when you do rely on AI for your creative, this can happen. I don't need to go into too much detail of what that was. I'm sure you all remember. Beautiful creative, but it didn't really match up. And if you take anything away from my presentation today, it's don't make your customers cry. They won't buy from you again next year if you do. So there's 3 questions that we should ask them as well, like what will creative mean in 2024, what do users want to see in 2024, and how are we going to stop them scrolling in 2024? So I'm going to bring you through some of the suggestions that we have, and the first one is SEO. Authenticity is the second one, and then just making sure you're using diverse content is the third piece. So to start off with SEO, you might have heard us talk about this term before. It's essentially SEO, which is search engine optimization, combined with social media advertising. And to go into a little bit more detail, essentially what we do there is we look at what's trending on, let's say TikTok, for example. We look at trending hashtags, we look at what people are searching for on Google, and we make content based off that. And this doesn't just improve your performance on your organic visibility on the likes of TikTok and Meta, so on. It also improves your visibility, your organic visibility on the SERP. As Caitlin said earlier, we were seeing TikTok videos show up on the search page whenever we were searching for specific things. So just as an example, we took Sosu Cosmetics, and you'll see here on the left, this is TikTok's insight tool, where essentially you can see what hashtags are trending in a specific market, industry, and time frame. So at the time of this case study, we noticed that lash and mascara had been trending in the top 40% of the beauty and cosmetics keywords. So what we essentially did was we created content based off of that, and we wanted to make sure that we were using people in our ads, because at the end of the day, people do buy from people, so that was a large part of the content that we drove there. And where Sosu Cosmetic Lashes were actually seeing a slight drop, our SEO strategy actually helped us turn that around and completely flip it over. And net sales volumes increased by 9%, and gross revenue increased by 22% month over month. So it just goes to show you, if you are being really reactive to what your customer are looking for and you produce content that they need, that can have really good rewards for your revenue and your sales. And then being authentic. So this has probably come up a lot as well, using people-led content to drive engagement, and why, well, people do buy from people. You trust people more than you trust the company or the brand, essentially. So you might be wondering, who are these people? Well, they're influencers, they're your customers, and that would come in the form of user-generated content, or UGC for short. And then there's your workforce, so doing a lot of in-store videos, letting your customers hear from the professionals and the experts themselves. So here's an example from Woody's. So I just have a few examples here of content that they've done that all feature people. So there's a mix here of influencers, UGC, in-store videos. So the point here for the in-store videos, for example, is you're hearing from someone on a specific topic that they work on, or a specific category that they're an expert in. So the customer's trusting them that little bit more. It's not the company itself talking about how great this product is. It's someone who works with that every day. And then we have examples as well of people who have brought home products, they're using them. So again, you kind of trust them a little bit more, especially when you can see the product in action from somebody who bought it themselves. And what did we see here? So the CPCs, when we compare them to content that wasn't using people, we saw that Meta had a drop of 22% CPC and Pinterest had a 41% drop. Online revenue increased 12% year over year, and social-driven revenue increased 73% year over year, and that resulted in a 56% increase in ROAS. So again, it just goes to show you, when you're using people in your ads, your customers tend to relate that a little bit more, and they're more interested and they're more engaged. So then there's using diverse content as well. So I know this looks kind of like a bit of a confusing graph, but I'll explain it. So essentially what it's saying is that too many ads are sitting below the 2.5 second memory threshold. So what this essentially is saying is that people are dropping off their ads too soon, so they're maybe watching 1 or 2 seconds of your video and then they're just scrolling on, clicking to something else. So the idea is that we want to flatten this curve and keep people on your ads for longer. So who here enjoys doing tax returns? Anybody? No, put your hands down. That's not how this is supposed to go. But yeah, so no one really enjoys doing tax returns, but we do have a client Irish tax rebate, so we had a challenge there. It's essentially kind of a boring thing, and I'm not just throwing shade at my client. We only do it to the non-retail clients, don't worry. But we had to make something that's not exactly very exciting, something that is exciting and is engaging and gets more people to engage with it and click it. So we made content that was based off a lot of like trending TikToks and memes at the time. You'll see like screaming cats, Mona, the little green thing, and then like sleepy dogs. So it was just kind of taking a bit of a risk, like putting together like this like mad crazy content, but it worked really, really well. So we have an example here of like some of their old content that wasn't really performing as well as we would have liked. You'll see that there's a very steep curve. So again, that's definitely falling below the 2.5 second memory threshold. You'll see like 2 shares up here and 224 likes. But then when we look at more recent content, that curve has like flattened a lot. And now we're seeing 81 shares and like 5k likes. So there's a massive difference whenever you're showing content that is good and funny and engaging. And what the result here was average watch time increased 137%, and applications actually increased 42%. So it wasn't just driving likes and shares and engagement, people were actually going through and submitting an application as well. So the conclusion there is that creative is essentially going to be your targeting in 2024. All right. I'm not going to drop some mics, so you can just clap.